you today live. I'm going to go game by game, and I'm going to tell you exactly what I think the Jags record might be. Doing just a second here on Locked On Jaguars.
You are Locked On Jags, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on? I'm Tony Wiggins. I am your host of Locked On Jaguars, and we thank you for making us your first listen here because it's your team every day, the daily podcast Monday through Friday, free on all platforms, including YouTube. Make sure you find us, like and subscribe wherever you get your podcast. How y'all doing today? I'm hoping everybody is doing better than I am, although we're lucky to be here. We're blessed to be here. We're improved. And like I said, we're glad to have you. The schedule's out. What's the significance of a schedule release? Well, it's just on the surface, it looked like another day where the NFL can just celebrate their greatness and dominance over every other sport as a year-round entity. But it's also a day for fans to start to visualize in their mind what the season will look like, the plan for traveling to road games, and to sort of start letting them visualize and get into their mind how the season may go and how it could turn out. Look at some of the tough stretches, some of the easier stretches, and I'm going to caution you guys about that here in the first segment. In the third segment, I'm going to skip from 1 to 3. In the third segment, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go game by game live right here with you right now. I did not do this earlier. I do not know who I'm going to pick to win the games, but I'm going to go live right now, and then we're going to count everything that I think we're going to see. Segment 2, I'll talk about some of the most exciting games that right now we anticipate. But we anticipate them now because we're thinking of these teams in the context of what we remember them being, but each year teams change. So what you might think is a good game now or a bad game now might not turn out to be that way. So we'll talk about that as we go through the schedule and traveling. What games do we believe folks will travel to? But right now, let's just get into starting this off by talking about the schedule release and its importance to Jacksonville. One thing I noticed, the first thing that jumps out is this is a young team that's going to really have to learn how to win, and they're going to have to learn how to do it while they're traveling. 7 of 17 games are played here. Now, that doesn't mean that there are 7 home games. There are actually technically 8 home games, 9 games on the road. Last year, it was flip-flop. The Jaguars had, since they went to a 17-game schedule, some teams are going to have more games on the road than they are at home. The Jaguars actually had more home games last year, but now it's flip-flopped. And the travel to London is back for a second year in a row, even after last year. So they have a home game, which is actually going to be in London. And then they were already only scheduled to have 8 home games. So they only have 7 here in Jacksonville at TIAA Bank Field in Duval County. So you have 7 opportunities this year to see your team live, unless you decide to do what a lot of people do, and that is get on the road and go take your talents to other cities. And let me tell you, our crew that we have here, from the brigade to the hooligans, those guys travel well when they do go. And I'm sure that they'll have some stuff lined up. And as soon as I hear about it, I promise you, I'll let all you guys know on Locked On Jaguars. Whether you're here in Jacksonville or you're in one of the cities where these games will be played, it's always a good time to get out and holler at you. I did a Fan Friday, so I also go through some of those Fan Friday questions of games that people are mostly looking forward to, as well as the ones that they'll travel to. One I recommend is Philadelphia. I recommend Philadelphia because I've been to Philly. The pregame experience was good. There's a lot of things to do in Philadelphia if you've never been. If you're a foodie like me, you can go check out all the cheesesteak places or go down to Reading Market and eat and enjoy, and then see what the game day looks like with something that has an actual parking lot full of facilities at like Xfinity Live. This is one big mega bar with probably like 10, 12 bars in it, right in the parking lot of all three arenas, all three, the baseball, football, as well as the regular arena where they play hockey and basketball. So just a beautiful, beautiful time that I had in Philly. Now I was there in a neutral situation because I was there for Army Navy, so it's not like I was a visitor. But I'm sure it's a little bit different when you're a visitor going up to see the Eagles play. But we'll go through a lot of that too. The 7 home games bothers me only because this is a young team, and it's also a team where there is an air of excitement because of the unknown about this and Doug Peterson. And it's the second year for Trevor Lawrence. And there's this feeling that they're going to actually be better. And the irony that they actually get better in a year where you're going to see them less than you have in the past, it's a little bit bothersome. And I know a lot of people were tweeting today that they're really tired of the London situation, even though the London situation has been, as told by so many, it says that London is a viable game for the Jaguars. Like it has to be a part of what the Jaguars are going to do in order for them to stay afloat. So we'll just continue to discuss that. I'm gonna go through Fan Friday here in segment 2, where we discuss some of the games people think that they'll attend and why they're looking forward to more games than others. We'll do all of that in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars after I tell you guys about BetOnline. BetOnline is your number one source for all your betting needs. Our partners continue to be the absolute best at getting you all of the latest odds, news, sports developments, including this year's basketball playoffs, which are buck wild. Major League Baseball has already started out. Boxing matches, fights, UFC, and even next season's NFL futures. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering information, from live betting to playoffs, esports, and more. Head to the website today and use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action, because BetOnline is where the game starts. You guys start here with me every day on Locked On Jaguars, and we appreciate you making us your first listen. All right, let's get off into this schedule. Let's bust off up into this schedule and tell you how it's going to go down. Only 3 preseason games. You know, they did have a rules change, and I know folks are happy about that. 2 of the games are on the road, only 1 at home. The Jaguars start off on August 4th against the Raiders. And then the following week, about 9 days later, actually, they play at home against the Cleveland Browns. And then they end the preseason on the road 2 weeks after that in Atlanta against the Falcons. You ain't going to know much from those games. You get to see a little bit of Josh McDaniels and how it looks with him starting out. But for the most part, you're not going to really learn a lot. You're going to learn how the Jaguars line up. I think people are going to be really impressed by that. But other than that, I'm pretty sure they'll keep everything vanilla, because 2 weeks after the August 27th game, the Jaguars take their talents and go on the road to play the Washington football team. I had a lot of people asking me, was I going to go to this game? Because these are the 2 of the 3 places I've lived most of my entire life, was Jacksonville and in the DMV up in Prince George's County. And I was a fan for forever of Washington. That's because the Jaguars didn't have a team. And lately, covering the team, I wouldn't necessarily call myself a fan. I'm a fan of the city, and I want them to win for the people of the city. But I have to sort of kind of remain objective when I sit and watch games. I know more about the Jaguars than I do about Washington football team. So, no, I'm not going up there. And plus, the stadium's a dump. The next week, they come home in week 2 of the regular season and play the Indianapolis Colts. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now, they're probably going to beat the Colts again, because that's kind of what the Jaguars do. The Colts always seem to have a problem coming down here. Kept them out of the playoffs last year, so they might have a little revenge on their mind as well. Pardon the face I'm making. Them having a little bit of issues breathing. I got some meds I'm taking, so y'all pardon me with these facial expressions, all right? The next week, the Jags, once again, will get on the road and go out west and play the Los Angeles Chargers. They have not played well historically out west. We'll see if this year it will change. The following week, they go to what I talked about. I mentioned the aforementioned Philadelphia Eagles. Early in the year, they go up to play Philadelphia on October 2nd. The next game, they come back home. They're home against the Texans. So their first two games are divisional games and critical divisional games. They're home against the Texans. Then they turn right around and they play the Colts. So they play the Colts twice within the first 5 weeks to get that out of the way. And that's back on the road. Yes, back on the road. Then they are home against the Giants, home against the Broncos, and home against the Raiders in 3 straight home games, 3 consecutive home games against teams that aren't in the division, and one is an interconference game. Then they go back on the road on November 13th to Kansas City. Then they're home against the Ravens. Then after that, the Jaguars go play Detroit. That's going to be a good game for a lot of reasons, and most of them are obvious. A lot of Jacksonville connections up in Detroit, as well as the number 1 versus the number 2 pick. The Jaguars then go to Tennessee on December 11th. They're home on December 18th for the Cowboys, and that's a game I probably had 12 ticket requests already. I might need to tell everybody they got to buy them instead of me trying to find them for them. Then the Jaguars go to the Jets, another game that is extremely interesting because the Jets obviously took their quarterback 1 pick after the Jaguars, and they're tied at the hip until they aren't tied at the hip. They're off on Christmas, which is good, and Christmas Eve, because a few of the last years, the Jaguars have actually been on the road on the West Coast on Christmas Eve. They do, however, play on the road on New Year's Day, so that means they won't be home on New Year's Eve. They go to Houston to play the Texans, and they close the season out at home against the Titans. I would love nothing more than the Jaguars having to win those last 2 games to make a wild card, and it's against the division rivals, particularly those mayonnaise-eating Tennessee Titans on January 8th. Interesting how the season has gotten later. There are 2 games now in January that are regular season games. So that's a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot going on. I'll tell you right now, most people say they are most happy about the Cowboy game. There are some people say that they want to go to London, but most people are eager to see the Cowboy game, and the game that they're most likely to travel to will be the Philadelphia Eagles game. Painkillers or something else, man. I'm telling you, they got me sitting here yawning like every 5 minutes, and I'm trying not to do it. But you guys, I'm always going to be transparent with y'all. Y'all know what it is. But most people say they're going to Philly. Some people say that they will go. I've seen people say they want to go to LA early in the year. And but everybody's talking about that Dallas Cowboy game. Everyone's talking about that. If I recommend, I would go to Washington too. There's a lot to do, especially if you go a day before the game. The Black History Museum, the Museum of African American History. Baseball's still going on. They got a great baseball park now down in Southwest, and a lot of breweries. So there's a lot to do in the DMV in early September. And it's usually a really good time. The weather's usually really nice. So that's something too I would recommend that you do. Another thing I recommend before we get into me going through one by one on picking these games is find out where the food is, whether it's something that's been on Food Network or Netflix or whatever. Find out where the food is, man, and go to these places. If I were you, I'd try to make my way to the Wharf in D.C. I think they moved it, but if you love seafood, it is off the chain. And then if you go to Philly, do your cheesesteak competition. You got to make traveling fun, man. You got to make it a 2 or 3 day experience, because lately you never know what's going to happen on game day. Well, lately what's been happening on game day is they have not been winning. But I would suggest that since they don't have a lot of games, you guys go get out and have a lot of fun and plan your trips right now accordingly and have fun with it, especially early in the year when they haven't given you anything to be disappointed about yet. But it's also, the Philly game is also homecoming of sorts for Doug Peterson and a lot of his staff. So I think it'll be a lot of fun to go up there and watch some of these matchups. All right, we're going through game by game here in just a second on Locked On Jaguars. And we'll get to that in our third segment, and we'll figure out what the record is. I'm going to just do it off the cuff. We'll do that in just a second after I tell you guys about the brilliance of Built Bar. Why do I say it's brilliant? Because they've actually created a candy bar, which is a protein bar, and a treat with it, which is a marshmallow puff that tastes like you're not supposed to be eating it when you're losing weight or trying to, but it's absolutely good for you because the macros are sitting at about 150 calories with 16 to 18 powerful grams of protein and only 4 to 7 grams of sugar. It is off the chain, man. I'm telling you, you need to have some Built Bar in your life. It's the perfect snack for you to just get a burst of goodness in your life in between meals while you're at work, or if you're taking a nice little road trip or something. Built Bar is what you need. Covered with 100% chocolate. You need to go to built.com and find your flavor. Now, you can either get the bar or the puffs, but I tell you, my personal favorite is salted caramel, and you can get yours at 15% off of your order when you use the promo code LOCKED15. That's right. The promo code is LOCKED15, and you'll get 15% off your next order of Built Bar. Make sure you go to built.com. Check them out on Twitter also at @bar_built for all the latest information. For the latest information about the Jaguars, you're in the right place here on Locked On Jaguars. I am Tony Wiggins, your host of Locked On Jaguars. Been doing this for a while, man. 13th year covering this team, and I'm finally looking optimistic. There's some long-term stuff that's going on here that's going to really, really help this team get over that hump. Check out the Locked On NFL podcast as well. You can check me out there on Wednesday because me and my man James Rapine, we really get it in with a broader around the league perspective about the entire NFL. And it's not just Wednesdays. It's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And there's a different set of cats every single day on Locked On NFL to give you all of the information you need from around the league. It's wherever you get your podcast, and it's free on all platforms. Make sure you like and subscribe to the YouTube page as well. All right, man, let's go through the schedule. We're going to sit here and roll through it one by one so we can figure out what the Jaguars' record is going to be. I did not do this prematurely. I did not do this prior to today. I wanted this to be organic and a surprise. Week 1, going up to Washington, they're going to beat Carson Wentz and the Commanders. Yep, I think they will. I think it'll be a good game. A lot of these games will be real good and be competitive. Week 2 against the Colts, they're going to beat Matt Ryan and the Colts again. I just got a feeling they're going to do it. Week 3, going out to L.A., I'm going to put that down as an L. They're going to lose against the Chargers. Week 4, going to Philly, I don't think they're going to pull that one out either, as much as Doug Peterson probably wants to beat his old team. I think they're 2-2 after 4 weeks. Week 5, against the Texans at home, revenge game. The Jags go to 3-2. I think they beat the Houston Texans. Week 6, they go back to the Colts. I think the Colts get revenge. They're good enough to split with the Jaguars. They'll go 3-3, and I believe after 6 games, the Jaguars are flat even. The next game against the Giants, against the Jaguars, as much as I like a lot of the things the Giants did in the offseason, I still think their quarterback is suspect. I'm going to say the Jags are going to go to 4-3, going to beat the New York Giants. Week 5, the Broncos at the Jaguars. Hey, man, Nathaniel Hackett comes back to town, but I think he comes back to town with a team that's too talented for Jacksonville, and I think Denver wins a close game. So halfway through the season, after 8 games, I have the Jaguars at 4-4. The following week, the Raiders come in, and I think Josh McDaniel and his team will be locked and loaded, and I think they beat the Jacksonville Jaguars as well. The Jags then go to Kansas City. I think this is one of the games where Jags really play tough and show you that they've grown up and they're going to be better and things are getting real, real good for them, but they still fall short to the Chiefs. The next week, the Ravens come walking into town to play the Jaguars in Jacksonville. The Jags have probably played their best game of the year, and they lose it against the Chiefs. But Lamar Jackson is a different animal, and I don't think they're going to be able to hold him down. The following week, they go up. It's the Jags versus the Lions. It's Trayvon Walker versus Aiden Hutchinson. I think Detroit's going to have a little bit too much for him in that game because they really, really played well last year despite their record not being very good. All right, we got 5 more weeks to go. The Jaguars at this point are 4-7 or 4-8. They're 4-8 with 5 more weeks to go. Can they turn it around in these last 5 games? The Jags, after losing to the Lions, travel the following week to play the Tennessee Titans. And I think they beat Ryan Tannehill in Tennessee. And you're going to start seeing people calling for that kid from Liberty to play instead of Ryan Tannehill. The following week is probably going to be the game that's going to be the most packed. Those Dallas Cowboys that my friend James Rapine says I like so much, which I don't. I think they're supremely talented. But I think the Jaguars going to have something for them. I'm going to go ahead and say the Jaguars going to beat the Cowboys, and it's going to turn that stadium upside down. The following week, the Jaguars go up to New York to play the Jets. Cold weather 3 days before Christmas. I'm going to give the Jets the advantage in that one. I just got a gut feeling that the Jaguars won't beat them. The Jaguars already beat the Texans once. So on New Year's Day, they go back to Houston, and I think they beat them again. I think the Jaguars going to beat the Houston Texans in the game before the last game. And finally, coming back home to close the season, they have won 7 games so far. They've lost 9 games so far. They're 7-9. They're out of the playoffs. But they hand the Tennessee Titans another loss, and they sweep the Tennessee Titans out of the Jacksonville Jaguars, going 8-9 for the 2022 season. You guys saw me do that live and in the flesh. That was it. That was as organic as it come. I did not practice, but I gave you my reasons. I know you guys probably disagree with some of the games, but that's okay. That's the way it goes. Look, I'm still nursing my way back to hell, but I love you guys so much, man. I had to come in here and do this show today, and we got it in. So make sure you check it out all weekend. Tell your people where it's at. Let them know that it's all about Locked On Jaguars. It's all about you. It's all about the Jaguars taking care of each other. Come next week, we'll start breaking down what we heard from rookie minicamp. We'll do that on Monday, and then we'll do a serious profile on the rookies and tell you what the exact expectations are for all of the rookie class and who is going to play the most and how much of an impact they're going to have. We'll do that Monday, and I'll have it for you here where we always do it on Locked On Jaguars. Your team every day. We thank you for making us your first listen. Take care of each other, and we'll see you in a couple of days.